Hello, friends. Happy March. Don't look at your calendar. It's March. As with every month when you're a professional gamer, I played lots of games. From dreamy rhythm games to anti-capitalist RPGs to Minecraft successors, these 6 indie games ran the gambit. And here's what I thought of them. I'm EJ, you're you, this is my channel, and just like buttholes, everyone has an opinion, and I'm gonna show you mine. My opinion, not my... Now, I don't know that I would call these reviews. I think of them more as first impressions and thoughts of the games, because I unfortunately have to work for a living. I don't have time to spend hundreds of hours playing each of these games to get every single thing out of it. So take these thoughts with a grain of salt. You know, everyone has different tastes, so if something sounds interesting to you, you should go ahead and check it out, and then if I'm wrong, you can come back and tell me how wrong I am in the comments. Fun. Melatonin, available on PC, Mac, and Switch. You remember when you would fall asleep to Adult Swim and you would wake up at like 3 a.m. with Billy Mates, may he rest in peace, trying to sell you something random? Melatonin is a sleek rhythm game that embodies these chaotic dreams that come from living in our overstimulated modern world. Each night, you venture into dreamland and you take on 4 different dreams, levels that have you hitting buttons on beat in response to on-screen stimuli. This can range from repeating back rhythms after they're presented to you, to reacting on the next beat to an on-screen event, or in more difficult levels, remembering the correct rhythmic response to visual and oral cues. It's kind of like Bop It for dreams. Each night culminates in a finale level that combines the 4 dreams into one tricky little gauntlet, testing your mastery of the previous 4 levels as it rapidly switches between dreams, ramping up the intensity until you accidentally fling your controller across the room, crashing into the Lego orchids that you just put together last night, scattering tiny plastic pieces across the floor along with the last remnants of your sanity. Kind of like Bop It. It's a classic rhythm game formula that's reminiscent of Mario Party's past, and it's held together by some absolute bangers, courtesy of Darby Phillips and other artists. When I was playing it all the time, I was finding myself unable to resist grooving around my room like some sad person playing video games alone with his cat on a Saturday night. Just like our main character. Look, a rhythm game on its own is nothing new. If I wanted to be punished for not being perfectly on beat, I would just go back to high school marching band. But what sold Melatonin for me was the story and the vibes. And there isn't that much of a story. You really just get brief glimpses of it in between levels. But all in all, Melatonin is a game about sleep, especially sleep in a world of video games and social media and dating apps and existential threats and a billion other things demanding your immediate attention right now. And each night of dreaming in Melatonin is linked by a thematic through line that reflects one of those daily stresses. Each night we journey with this main character to find relaxation and relief in a hectic world, and combine that with lo-fi hip-hop beats to stare into the void to, and an art style that's like reminiscent of corporate Memphis, but what if it had a soul? And you get this quick bite of a game that just keeps you coming back to vibe out and achieve rhythmic perfection. And all that for $14.99? Ooh, sign me a script, doc. Because like melatonin, because like sleep aid. Yeah. Have a Nice Death. Available on Switch and PC. You know what's worse than death? Capitalism. And if Have a Nice Death managed to perfectly predict what the afterlife is like, then those two have a lot in common. In Have a Nice Death, you play as Death, that cute little skeletal Grim Reaper / burnt out corporate executive of the underworld. The minions that you brought into existence to help you manage all of the killing and stuff have run amok and thrown off the balance of souls in the afterlife. So, you gotta go and murder your dead employees to show them who's boss. Yeah, HR? Just like another video game about an afterlife bogged down in red tape and bureaucracy, Have a Nice Death is a roguelite dungeon crawler. 2 terms thrown out by indie game devs more than Hollywood throws Chris Pratt into basically any franchise they can. Basically what that means is that each time you play, you start off with like a basic amount of life and power, and you make your way through randomly generated rooms, dungeons, hacking through enemies until you reach a big baddie at the end of the dungeon. You beat them up, and you advance on to the next level. But if you die, you're sent all the way back to the beginning. The womb. Not that far, I'm joking. Each time you cycle through, you'll unlock new abilities and just kind of get better at the game in general, which is going to make it easier to advance until you make it all the way through to the end. But I wouldn't know about that, because I'm bad at gaming. Just kidding, but also, I'm friggin' terrible at this game. I don't know what it was about this one, but like I can make my way through the dungeons fine. You know, I was pretty good at like the exploration and the movement and like hack and slashing the little enemies and everything. But then I get to the first boss and I wouldn't last more than 10 seconds. What the hell? Brad. It could have been the keyboard controls that I had to use because the game has controller support, but my computer just won't work with my controller. But the bosses were way more difficult for me than the normal enemies that came before them, which then made it super frustrating for me to play through the game, even though I really liked playing it. Have a Nice Death has this great sense of gallows humor, and it has a bunch of like fun and adorable and pretty twisted characters. And the writing itself, it was funny. It frequently brought out, you know, like a respectable chuckle from me. And from a gameplay perspective, I just had a lot of fun exploring the levels themselves. They're really big rooms with a bunch of like nooks and crannies for you to get into. And it was a lot of fun to go into them and, you know, hack down enemies and collect coins and, you know, numbers go up, make EJ happy. I don't know. I think I just need to either get better at gaming on a keyboard or just suck it up and buy it again on the Switch. But the fact that I would even consider spending $24.99 again should tell you about the quality of the vibes coming off of this game. I mean, they are pristine. I want to bottle them up and sell them, but I can't. So I'll tell you to play the game instead. Final Profit. PC exclusive. For all you RPG fans, I have got something for you. And what's that, Thomas? Oh, I see. Okay, so apparently RPG doesn't stand for Retail Participation Generator. Why did I leave this joke in? In Final Profit, you play as Queen Mab, the queen of the fairies, exiled from the lands of Fae because of your radical plan to stop the evil Bureau of Business from destroying your realm. That radical plan, apparently, is to open a medieval bodega where you sell your goods to the same customers who always buy the same things. I think it's important to get it out of the way now that I only played a demo of this game. I spent a lot of money buying the other games for this video, and I'm a barista, so yeah. That said, it was a 2-hour demo. It was pretty lengthy, and I do think I got a pretty good feel for the tone and the mechanics of this game. So you find yourself in this foreign and deceptively hostile world of the humans, and you adopt the alias of Madama Baes. You set up shop in the human town, you go and you find customers, you find out what they want, and you find these different merchants who are willing to provide the goods for you to actually sell. And then once you get into all of that, it's just a classic goal of, you know, optimizing. Use the money you get to buy more goods, to make more money, to upgrade your shop, to make more money, to buy an accessory that lets you make more money so you can buy more goods. I mean, instead of battle, this RPG has you earning XP by making money, allowing you to make your shop even better and make, you guessed it, more money. But along the way, you're going to be faced with some moral decisions that ask, how far are you willing to go to dismantle this system of oppression with its own tools? Now, if that last part sounded really political, it's because this game is really political. It is not shy about the fact that this is a critique of capitalism. And luckily, for the most part, it does shy away from like being very preachy about it, although there were a couple moments that felt like a little on the nose. For instance, at one point you meet this nurse who's like, hey, this old lady that you've been selling a lot of coffee to really needs to cut down the caffeine. What is she even like with the stuff? And it's like, you can offer her a free sample, or you can just like leave her alone. And if you offer her a free sample, she gets addicted to caffeine. And it's like, oh my God, you got someone addicted to caffeine. I don't know. I'm addicted to caffeine and like, I'm fine. But in its favor, the game does spend a large amount of time developing the story around your character, Queen Mab, which is stuff that I enjoyed a lot more. There's a tumultuous relationship between the queen and her daughter, and she takes over as the queen of the Fae. And there's like this hinting at a larger mystery surrounding the nefarious Bureau of Business. And I think it's also gay. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's gay. All in all, Final Profit takes itself very seriously. But I do think it was fun, and there were really funny moments that I genuinely enjoyed, even for me, you know? I am someone who does not like RPGs usually. But if RPGs are your thing, I would say give it a check out. It's also only $14.99, which now I can't afford, so maybe I will actually go play the full thing and tell you. Storyteller, available on PC, Mac, and Switch. Ugh, Storyteller. I was very excited for this game from like the first trailer that I saw, mainly because I was like, how are they gonna make that like a game? And let me tell you how they did it. Storyteller is a puzzle game that uses the age-old medium of, you guessed it, storytelling, to challenge you to write out various storylines using a limited set of characters and scenarios in these comic strip-esque settings. For example, like the title will be Edgar Gets Heartbroken, and you'll have 2 panels to work with and 2 characters, Edgar and Isadora. And then you get 2 scenarios, marriage and death. So you drag marriage onto the first panel, and you drop Edgar and Isadora in, and like, aw, they're in love. And then you drag death to the second panel, and you put Isadora on the tombstone, you put Edgar next to her, and like, aw, she's dead. Edgar gets heartbroken. Boom. And honestly, it is like the perfect puzzle game setup because the mechanics are really easy and intuitive to understand. I mean, we all tell stories. And when you combine all those mechanics together, they come up with some pretty complex and like difficult puzzles. It is super rewarding to experiment around with this game. And there's a bunch of charming scenarios and animations to experience. For instance, if you take a previous scenario and you just like swap around the panels so that death is first and then it's marriage, suddenly Edgar is marrying a ghost Isadora. And he's like, ah! It's a really clever way to put something that is limitless, like storytelling, into something that's inherently limited, like a video game. And it still makes it feel like all the possibilities are like endless. You know, along the way, there'll be bonus challenges to each puzzle, and you have a pretty reasonable amount of freedom in how you solve each puzzle. My favorite thing to do, surprising no one, would be to make the characters gay. All in all, it's a fun, very polished puzzle game to spend an afternoon with. It took me about 4 hours to get through all the levels, and honestly, I was gonna like count that against it, but for $14.99, that's like less than the price of a movie ticket. I was like, all right, it's worth it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Segue. Core Keeper, PC exclusive. Playing Core Keeper gave me the experience of staring at a person-shaped hole in a wall. It was made just for me, and I don't know how deep it goes, but I'm along for the ride. After you are transported into a subterranean realm because you listen to the crow in your brain that tells you to touch shiny things, you must find a way to survive in a strange new world, and that's kind of all the game gives you. It drops you off like a 90s parent dropping you off at a playground with like a couple of 2x4s and 2 feet of rope saying, you know, have fun. That's where the training wheels come off. I'm mixing metaphors here, but you get what I'm saying. There's no real objective that it presents to you other than to explore, stay alive, and presumably get back home. At first, you just use the tools God gave you, hands, to dig your way through the walls. But then you find one wall gives way into a room lit by glowing blue flowers and fireflies, and then you can see something sparkling in the darkness at the edge of your screen, and the crow in your brain is like, yes, we need it. So you go there and you find copper ore and old roots, and they give you wood, and then you find out that you can use the wood to craft tools to make exploring even easier, and all of a sudden, it's 2 hours later, and your phone screen is littered with notifications from your friends and family because you didn't upload your BeReal on time, and are you dead? Core Keeper just sucks you in with its mechanics that are super easy to understand, intuitive if you've played any kind of survival game in the last, 2 decades. But then it sprinkles just enough breadcrumbs to keep your crow brain satisfied and your interest piqued about the mysteries that lie below the surface. Couple that with a mini-map that extends as you explore this dark new world, and beautiful pixel art graphics, gorgeous, and most importantly, orange goo, and you have a recipe for a new hyperfixation. This game does have an online co-op system that allows you to play with up to 7 other people, and you can work together to build your base and explore and uncover secrets or whatever. But also, if you are like me and you prefer to game solo, Core Keeper still has a lot for you to uncover, although from what I'm gathering from looking online, it does seem like it'll probably be harder for us going forward, but I didn't really find it that hard when I was playing it. I was sucked on in. So all in all, what I would say is that if you like the exploration of Breath of the Wild, or you yearn for, I don't know, what I imagine the beginning of Minecraft was like, I never really played it, I definitely encourage you to satiate your little crow brain and give Core Keeper a shot, especially because it's like usually on sale, and I think it's only $14.99 like normally. Chia, available on PC, PS4, and PS5. Chia. I fucking love this game. In Chia, you play as Chia, a young girl living a peaceful life with her schmexy dad, until a friend comes to drop off supplies, but oh no, he's been followed, and a helicopter descends and a big scary guy with a machete kidnaps the schmexy dad. No! Thus kicks off Chia's adventure around her island nation to rescue her father from the clutches of the evil ruler Mayavora. And that adventure, let me tell you, is friggin' gorgeous, okay? Chia was inspired by New Caledonia, which is a French territory, for now, in the South Pacific. It was made by a team led by born and raised New Caledonians, and it is obvious from the game the love and affection that these people have for their home. The environment and culture on display, I mean, they're not one-to-one depictions or anything, but they are nonetheless drawn with so much care and purpose. All of the characters are voiced by local actors speaking French and Drehu, which is one of the most common native languages in New Caledonia. And that all just enriches these beautiful, fully animated cutscenes that tell a story that honestly made me cry like a little baby many times. This isn't to say it's a perfect game, and I do want to get my reservations with it just out of the way. I found the tutorial to be a little too hand-holdy, and it's pretty long, especially for my liking. And then once I got out of the tutorial, there was definitely a lot of those common pitfalls that you see in open world games, like go to tall thing, and then you get your map populated with a bunch of points of interest and things like that. And there's also these rhythm game sections that are overlaid on top of these otherwise really gorgeous musical scenes that really just felt unnecessary, and also were extremely difficult for no reason. At some point, I just chose to let the game play those things for me so I could watch the scene. But beyond those issues, which I would argue are pretty small, minor gripes in the grand scheme of things, I loved playing this game. You can probably tell from the other games and the other reviews that I am a sucker for exploration in games, and this game is just full of it. I mean, I spent hours, I'm not joking, hours just going around the map, finding different collectibles, and it made it so much more fun because of this really cool soul jumping mechanic that they have, where you can launch your soul into logs and rocks and birds and lizards and fish, and you use them to move around, and it makes exploring so much faster than it ever would on foot. It's just such a delightful way to travel around also, because you're oh, can I soul jump into that? And it's you can, and it's just so much fun to move around. Although I will say I do wish that the NPCs reacted a little bit more when there's a random bird or rock just rolling by them. They don't really seem to notice. And I will say, even though Chia uses that map filled with markers mechanic that's really a staple of open world games like Assassin's Creed, I didn't really find myself glued to the map or the mini map or anything when I was exploring, because the map function is just way more low tech. There isn't really a marker that follows around your character or anything. Instead, you just kind of look at the map, and then she is I think I'm here, and then you use your little compass to go in probably, hopefully, the right direction. And it just makes the exploration so much more rewarding, and also just so much more explory, There's just so much I love about this game. I'm really having trouble fitting it all into this little section. I mean, there's an Ocarina of Time-esque ukulele mechanic that you use to change the time of day or summon rain or something. And the characters are just so charming, and there's just such a wonderful sense of humor that this game has about itself. It doesn't take itself too seriously all the time, but it does take itself seriously when it needs to, And then there's these totem shrine challenges that are just lovely little breaks in the gameplay loop. The friggin' story, I really can't. I'm trying not to spoil anything from the actual story, but all I will say is the gays are eating well tonight, okay? Ugh, I love it so much. Play Chia. It is so worth your time. In all, if I had to pick 3 games for you guys to try out from this list, I would pick Chia, obviously, and Melatonin and Core Keeper. I was gonna say only 2 games, but I can't pick between Melatonin and Core Keeper, so I guess you're gonna have to play both. Oh no. If you have any thoughts about the games that I discussed today, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, stay cute, stay hydrated, stay you. Bye!